is Maria Jolicoeur. Welcome to my show, Let's Talk About History. I'm here today at the Leffingwell Inn, and it is Founders Day. And they are going to be reenactors, and we're going to stay and watch. I hope you enjoy my show. Thank you. I'm here with Big Bear. And Big Bear, can you tell me a little bit about yourself?
Why, certainly, Mum. I hail from the colony of Rhode Island, Roger Williams Colony. I'm a privateer with the privateer band of the Raven. And when we take the items that we find floating at sea with no apparent ownership, we take it into port. And I work with the Big Bear Trading Company. We sell items that are found floating at sea, and it's our civic duty to find homes for it all. We find usually eating utensils, jewelry, sewing equipment, buttons.
And you have some of these items for sale,
Yes,
correct?
we do. We brought these here for the day here at the Leffingwell Inn. A fine inn it is.
And do you have a shop in Rhode Island
No.
that you sell?
Basically, I just we set up at different fairs and
Nice.
communities, farmsteads, all throughout New England.
And so, what are some of the fairs that you're going to be at coming up?
Well, let's see. Next weekend, the 7th, we'll be at the Charlestown Historical Society Farm Museum on the 14th.
In Rhode Island.
In Rhode Island. And then the 15th will be in Fall River, Massachusetts, for a 17th century day also there.
Oh, nice. So if anyone would like to see Big Bear and some of his items that are for sale, it's a beautiful autumn day, and it's nice for traveling to see the fall foliage in New England. So hopefully you can go for a ride to Fall River, Massachusetts, or Rhode Island, and see Big Bear.
Yes, indeed.
Alrighty, thank you so much.
You're quite welcome, Mum, and have a fine day.
You too, Big Bear. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so these are some of the items that Big Bear has when he goes to the reenactments, like in Rhode Island and in Fall River, Massachusetts. This item is gorgeous. Can you tell me about, these are replicas of what would be found?
Yes, indeed. That one is a replica of a 17th century Spanish bracelet, and it would have been gold and rubies back then, taken by privateers. They would have a letter of marque either signed from the colonial governors or directly from the king himself to go after Spanish shipping or enemy shipping, and they could only go after enemy shipping. If they delineated from that at all, then they would be considered pirates. And the items would come back into port and be sold or auctioned, and then the proceeds of that, of what was auctioned and sold, would go to the members of the crew, to the captain, and whoever was the financial backer of the privateering vessel.
So, would this be from a sunken ship?
No, it would have come off of a trading ship that the privateers would have stopped, boarded, and removed from the ship.
Beautiful. And can you explain to me this?
Aye, this is a rum bottle, hand-blown glass. The wide bottom was for being used on board a ship. It helped it to keep from tipping over when it was stormy seas on a table.
Okay. And some of these items are either Irish.
There would have been some Irish jewelry, and also we have Scottish jewelry. These earrings are actually sterling silver with real pearls, and those are Spanish.
Now, these...
Those are salt spoons.
They used to have salt containers, little containers, and they didn't have salt shakers, so they would take their salt like this and put it on their food.
Yes, indeed. Salt was a very precious commodity in the 17th century.
Yes, and I noticed these Christian sign
Those
of
would have been
the
made
crosses.
with small rubies and also Spanish.
Very nice.
We've got beads for trading with the Indians.
Ooh.
These are called white hot beads because the center of the bead is white. We've also got horn beads, bone beads. We've got buttons for sewing.
Now, I noticed he has dice here. They must have played games with dice.
Aye, the French have a dice game called Farkle, and it's used with a bag and 5 dice.
And what about the spoons here?
We've got, let's see, those spoons are what are called apostle spoons. It has one of the apostles on the bottom. Quite often they were given out at churches on special saints' days. We've got wooden spoons. We've got, these are German, and they're called wedding spoons. Quite often they were given out at as a wedding gift.
And what material would that be?
These are made out of cow horn.
Oh, nice.
For those who couldn't afford pewter, these are the next best things. They would have cut the outline of the spoon in the horn, boiled it in water and vinegar. The acid in the vinegar breaks down the fibers of the horn to make it pliable. You put it into a regular spoon mold, and once it's dried, it retains its shape.
Now, isn't it true that pewter, the lead content, could make some people ill?
Well, yes, indeed. They found that some pewterers in the 17th century were mixing lead as a filler for the pewter up to 32%. And at that time, they didn't realize that lead was harmful to you.
Yeah. So, but these are lead-free.
Those are lead-free.
Okay, great. Alrighty, thank you, Big Bear.
You're quite welcome, Mum.
Thank
Have
you.
a fine day.
You too.
This is the pub. Yeah, this is the pub, basically, yeah. Because back then, we were supposed to buy everything from England. We were not supposed to make anything ourselves.
Everything's important.
Yeah, supposedly, yeah. We were supposed to be consumption from England. So, when England picked up the prices, or picked up, good morning, picked up the taxes, it's good to see you, sir. You saw the ravens outside, cool stickers they had.
Indeed, yes.
I'm just starting up a tour here. Somebody's over in the corner doing, anyway. I'm going to do a lot of editing on this, so. So they come here for rum. The other thing they come for is tobacco. Again, that was regulated by the king, and they didn't have it at home. So they'd come in, and they would rent a pipe.
Rent a pipe.
Yeah, well, because why have a pipe if you can't smoke it at home?
Yeah.
You know, and they'd buy the tobacco, and they'd smoke it. And when they're done with it, the next person, you know, because you get all the tobacco at the end of the pipe, they take it, and they put it in the fire. Oh, let me turn the fire on.
Just to see the picture.
Okay, here we go. And they put it in like that, and what happens is it heats up and it all drips down to the end. And when it drips down to the end, they snap the end of it off. So they got a nice fresh pipe to smoke on. And they got smaller and smaller
Smaller
and
and
smaller,
smaller.
yeah.
What material is that?
It's a clay, here, you can hold that.
It's clay?
It's a clay.
Oh. It's
It's
clay.
clay.
I thought it's like made of wood, it's clay.
No, it's clay, yeah. And they have like a straw or a piece of metal they put down the middle.
Oh, oh.
They put it in the mold with the clay and
And
make a
oh.
pipe. Okay, and the other thing they come for was news. Nobody had newspapers at home,
Uh-huh.
so you'd have to come here. What you do, you'd work during the day, you go home and eat, and then you come here. This is their
This is
social
just for
network.
male then, only for male.
What?
Not
What's going on?
female.
Oh, males, yes, only males, yes.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. The ladies were home,
The-
taking care of the kids. I'm sure there were a couple of ladies in
The
here.
pub,
I'm
yeah,
sure.
yeah.
Yeah, a
Those
couple.
are, not those are the,
Yeah, uh-huh.
like a pub.
To entertain, yes.
Yeah.
Anyway, the news they get would come down from Hartford, up from New London, and this spot itself was a major information booth, the Leffingwell Inn itself. The Sons of Liberty met here. It was part of the committee, was a committee of correspondence where they were talking to each other, the different towns and cities and colonies at the time, about revolting from the king. And it was in this room itself and other rooms like it in New England that the ideas of the
They
revolution came together. They planned and figured it out.
No, but there's no like a bar type, we just they sit around
They'd
and.
sit around on tables and just
Okay.
drink, and it's just like almost like a social drinking room. And this is what they were like in England. They might have had benches and tables, but
Yeah.
generally it's
Just like
just
this.
smaller, like that small table there.
Yeah.
You have like two people doing business or another two just having a good time, that type of a thing. Now,
Like
intro-
a country club for.
that's it, yeah, like the club, the local club. And in the town, you'd have anywhere from 5 to 10 taverns like this, because people would walk to them. It'd be the local people who would come to this one, or the local people go to the other tavern. What? What? Ah.
In Norwich, is there other taverns like this in Norwich or? just
Yes,
the-
they're like, on the green itself, there were,
In the green itself?
you had Peck's Tavern, who else did you have out there? Lord's Tavern, you had Lathrop's Tavern, you had at least 3 of them.
Oh, by the green.
Right on the green, the houses around the green.
Oh, wow.
Some of them were taverns. You had 3 taverns on the green, maybe 4. The idea was, okay,
So,
these people were Puritans. On Sunday they go to church, and they go to church about 7 o'clock in the morning, and they won't come home till about 5 in the afternoon.
they pray the whole
All day.
all day long.
Except at lunchtime, they let them loose to go out. And what they do, they take these guys here. Yeah. These are foot warmers to keep your feet warm at church.
Oh, okay.
And they come into the tavern, they fill these up with coals during the lunchtime break,
So they said that where they sit, so they.
and they put their feet right on.
Oh, they put on top of it?
Yeah. Or the ladies would just, put their skirts around it, stay there some more. Really well.
Oh, wow.
But at the same time that they're going in to fill up with coals, they're also eating, and they're drinking like crazy, so they can sit out the afternoon, seven.
Semi drunk.
Yep, the sermons. Okay, let me take you upstairs.
Okay.
Oh, I've got to explain one other thing too before we go there. When you came in, you stepped down to
Yes.
this house. There's a reason for that. Back then, it was wood was very expensive. They had the wood, but they were still cutting it in the wood pits, in the salt pits, by hand, like this. So it was expensive to get wood. What people would do is you'd find somebody who wants to leave or go back to England or just leave the area. And you find somebody who wants to get out of town fast, in other words. And what you do is you'd make them an offer and you'd buy their house and their cattle and their livestock and everything, and they're gone. You wait for winter, the ground gets good and hard, you take their house, put it on sleds and slip it over and plug it onto your house. That was someone else's house.
Oh, this other.
That area, yeah, but
Yeah,
the
yeah.
ceilings were not the same height. he wanted the same ceiling height, so he had to elevate the floor because it was a smaller house. Some homes you'll go into and you'll go into a room and oops, the ceiling will drop down. Yeah, it'll go down. That was someone else's house.
Nice. So they connected it, but
they connected them because nobody says, "Hey, let's build onto this house and make it inconvenient by having a step." You know, it didn't make sense. Okay, come on upstairs. I'll show you the bedroom. Hi, Art. How are you?
Very well, thank you. Yourself, sir.
Gathering. Hi. Come on upstairs.
Okay.
Do you need me? I'm going up now.
I have Dean here, and he's dressed in a beautiful suit. Dean, can you tell me
Dane,
about
excuse me.
Dane?
Yeah,
I'm
that's all
sorry.
right. That's all right. No worries.
All right. Dane, can you tell me about your suit?
Sure, I can. This is a pretty typical what you would see in around the mid to late 18th century. If you were of a particular well-to-do background, such as the Leffingwells, the Leffingwells here did pretty well for themselves. They were not nobility, they were not wealthy in those terms, but they were quite well off, being owners of mills and businesses and doing a lot of business with people in the area. So you would have had the opportunity to afford certain luxuries such as the ruffled shirt or the nice waistcoat.
Because material was very rare.
Yes, in many respects, absolutely. But
It had to be brought in from England and other foreign countries?
You would have had to in many cases, although what was interesting about this community of Norwich is that we were actually able to produce things. Norwich made a variety of materials and goods and services that you could then get right here at home. Norwich grew to be a rather prosperous community, and we were very patriotic because of that.
What I learned about material was the linen press. They would have flax in their garden, and the stems of the flax would be pulled apart, and that's how they made linen. And in the wills, some of the materials, even silk socks, were left to the next generation because that's how valuable material was.
Absolutely.
And the Huntington girl down the road preferred silk, and she would have her material sent in from, I believe, the Orient for her silk fabrics. So the art of making linen, they would have a linen press, dry the flax, and out of that flax they would braid the flax stems, and you would get the material linen. And it was a very tedious hobby, and only the families knew of this art to make linen. And to have a suit like this, like Dane was saying, and dresses, one dress could be worn for a lifetime from a girl into womanhood, and the hem would be taken down. So yes, this would be quite a beautiful man's suit in the 18th century.
Absolutely, and what a lot of people, what's interesting to point out too is that people today are so used to going to stores, to purchasing clothing.
Fabric is...
And everything is expendable nowadays. Back then, not at all. You didn't have a store to go to purchase a new frock coat or a new shirt even. Things were made by hand, and people took care of their belongings, and if something broke, you fixed it.
Yes, that's true.
Not so much anymore.
We take for granted fabric and materials today. That is very true. And if you Google maybe George Washington, the lists, or read some books, the list that he would send out to England for his daughters would include mittens, socks, fabric. So George Washington would have someone make these items for his daughters. And thank you, Dane, very much. That's a beautiful suit.
It is.
And it fits you very nice.
It does. It fits me pretty well, and I enjoy wearing it. This is a time period I almost wish I grew up in.
It's romantic, but I bet it was a very difficult period.
Oh, absolutely. and what's interesting is that a lot of things were very different back then, but people were concerned with the same things as people are concerned with nowadays.
Yes.
Raising a family,
Yes.
taking care of themselves, their health, and keeping a household, and maintaining a business, a farm, that sort of thing. It was, things were very similar in many ways, but also quite different too.
Yes. All right, and I bet you're going to save that suit for the
So.
remainder
Oh,
of
yes.
your years. All right,
Indeed.
thank you, Jane.
Thank you.
Very much.
It's a pleasure.
Yeah, thank you.
Indicated that the owner had fought the Revolutionary War. You mentioned earlier what were some of the values and meanings of the various things that I'm wearing. For the sake of discussion, the cockade, this particular item, would have indicated that I was a veteran of the Revolutionary War, much like we have people who wear the hats today of the various wars that they've been involved in. Other things are, this particular vest would have been a little bit rarer because of the striped material. One thing that a lot of people don't realize is, especially nowadays where we have, for lack of a better term, almost a throwaway clothing society, we do pass stuff along, but a lot of times we just toss it out, is that the buttons on my vest and on my pants are not sewed on. If you can come in on that, you'll see that there's a round stud so that when you change vest, you took the buttons with you. And they kept the button from popping out. Items like this, yes, they did cover up the front of the vest, but they also could be worn looser or tighter depending on the weather. Same with the stockings, they could come off or not. And the buttons on the pants and the pockets and that type of thing are the same way as these buttons because they had to be manufactured, and a lot of them were not manufactured here. These are pewter buttons, so they would have been manufactured overseas with the loop in the back and then able to put a staple through it.
Can you give me your name?
My name is Arthur Mueller.
Mother's Day. We've got a lot of interesting things going on today. When was the last time you came to visit us?
Last year.
Last year?
I thought, you know what, I knew something.
Yeah, we might have put in the weekend or so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, good. Well, thank you for coming back again and supporting us. This is an active time of year, so we
This is
love it.
actually all his ancestors.
Oh, I see.
Not
So,
Mr. Norwich.
okay. Which families?
Leffingwell. I asked my mother, and then she went crazy and got me like.
Oh, okay.
She
Look at
did
this.
the whole thing. All the ones in the circle.
Yeah.
So out of her 4 grandparents, 3 of them have descendants.
Okay.
And it's multiple because they married each other.
Yeah.
From Norwich?
Yeah.
Yeah. So very good. This is great. This is so good to have folks come down. We've got refreshments in the Colonial kitchen, and the crew of the Raven is out as well with
Yes,
their
they've already
segment.
tried to sell us their wares.
Oh, they're already up to no good then.
No, that already didn't spend some money, I'll tell you that.
The feature item on display is a sword that belonged to John Mason, of course, one of our
Oh, and I
founders.
should give you a, are you going to go through the house?
We've done it multiple times.
Oh, but you need a scavenger hunt.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah,
Scavenger
let's do a
hunt, I'll
scavenger
grab you
hunt,
one.
yeah. Absolutely. Yes, come take a look at the sword here. This is pretty great to see. Got all rotating out exhibits and items all throughout the season. So this is just the latest to be on display here. And once Greg in here, he can tell you just a little bit more. He was, yes. He was, yeah. John Mason got around in Connecticut. He made made headways in Mystic. He made headways in Saybrook and up here in Norwich. So he certainly got around in the area.
Can you go into the fact that he was a founding father of Norwich?
Yes, there were 35 original founders of Norwich who made their way up to this area from the Saybrook colony, and it would have incorporated the area here in Norwich in 1659. That's when the founding goes back, and each of the families.
And each of them are represented today, and many of them with the scavenger hunt, which I'm going to give to all comers who can then go through the house and look for the different artifacts in each of these different founders. And one of the artifacts in here is the John Mason sword. The other one is a tavern license signed by a whole bunch of founding families. And we have something in every room that represents a founding family. And so they all have a white dot. Okay?
Yeah.
So enjoy.
Welcome, sir.
That's the real sword?
Yes, sir. Real sword.
So what would he have used that for?
Well, some swords would have been used as dress, other ones would have been used as combat. It's likely this could have been used for a variety of purposes. I'm actually unsure of.
This was used for both.
That's why I would say it's for a variety of purposes. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes.
Next time, and there'll be very few opportunities for me to thank her for her vision of the city of Norwich and the changes that she has made with the rehabilitation of Panema Mills. And if you get a chance, go by and see the tower has been reconstructed. And I always, when I was a little girl, thought that living in the tower would be the place to be. I'm not certain they'll let me do that, but if you get a chance, I'm okay with living in a museum. And your vision on downtown Norwich, where we have 3 buildings being rehabilitated for high-end apartments downtown Norwich, and looking at that. And I went down on